is kind of a little misleading, but the tunnel actually isn't going out here in the ether. It's going to start from your PC, engaging a remote access VPN all the way through the environment and terminating on R3. Alright, on R3. This is what we were doing at BDL on Friday. Yeah, so you can actually cheat and look at your router if you can decipher all the other tunnels that are there.
Which tunnel is it?
There you go.
That's the problem. It's like 4B.
Hey, it's a scavenger hunt, Brian!
You're not going to tell me what company it's going to?
No, those are site to site. This is a remote
Oh,
access.
this is the okay.
This is the client base.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
After my 471.
Alright. So VPNs are very commonly used in the field. And in a lot of small to mid-sized businesses, you can terminate them on a router if that router is running the correct iOS image. And how you can tell if that router is running the correct iOS image, if you do a show version, alright, and you look at the either show version or a show flash. In some cases you might have to do a show disk 0. Depends on the router that you're running. You will find a file reference in one of those, and that file will end with .bin. Okay, just like the file that files you've been using in GNS3 that you've loaded up. And within that file, somewhere, you're going to see a reference to either K9 or K8. What that K9 or K8 means is it's a reference to a cryptographic key or cryptographic file. Okay? So, if you have that, you will be able to run not only the firewall feature set, you will also be able to do VPNs with IPsec. Alright, so what you're going to need. You don't necessarily have to use the 1841s in this case. You can use the 3725 because those are the ones with the cryptographic load. Switches, you can either use the well, let's hold off on that. You may use the 3725s with the switch module and use that as a switch, or you can use the software switches in GNS3. Okay. You will need to have the Cisco VPN client on your client side, so you will either have to attach the your local machine into the GNS3 environment, or attach a virtual machine into the GNS3 environment. Alright. Any reference to CCP, we will not do. We will disregard. So I have that highlighted. So cable the network as shown in the topology. This kind of steps you through a lot of the stuff that you have to do on R1 and R2, R3. Alright. Answer the questions. Again, a lot of these labs are really spoon feeding you. Configure your enable secret passwords. Encrypt your clear text passwords. Create a message of the day. Now, configure the remote access VPN. So, here's a little bit of a challenge. They want you to use the CCP access. Let's let's see here. Enable CCP. I don't think we don't have the CCP files on, or we can't use or reference the CCP files on the routers. Hmm.
6 pages, that's awesome.
What?
You don't have to do it for 6 pages.
No. I'm not going to be that easy on you guys.
Come on.
Look at this being easy on yourself. You don't have to grade more than 6 pages.
Oh, but see, then that would be an injustice.
You won't talent with.
Yeah, sure you want.
I deal with Chuck.
So, in typical network engineer fashion, I'm going to make you do this by command line. IP addressing, with the IP addressing that's in the lab, of course. You're going to have to replace some of the other items on, this will be primarily on R3. Okay? You'll have to change, your local pool to your pool for your local area network on Lab 3. Any references to the pre-shared keys you'll have to make from Lab 3, but the general structure is going to be the same. Now, I can completely 100% sympathize. All right, and I've been doing VPNs and the like for quite a number of years, but I've gotten spoiled in using the ASDM configuration wizards and configuration guides for VPNs because it makes life a lot easier. Because trying to remember all of this stuff is a little difficult, even for a guy who's been doing this for a little under 2 decades. So, but this is a really good document for you to understand the process in creating a remote access VPN. Okay? Because here's the summary of the configuration. You configure your interfaces, you IP them, make sure you have connectivity from your device to from your source device, like your PC, to the router that you're connecting to. You configure your ISAKMP policy and enable that ISAKMP on the outside interface. You configure DHCP pool. This is so when the PC or the remote device, and I actually did this for an iPad today. Okay, so I can't say laptop or desktop, it can be a flipping phone. You configure that pool so that it gets an IP address once it attaches. You have to have a user. Now this is a very simple configuration where that user is going to rest in the router itself. You can also set up these VPNs or other types of VPNs to where they reference a user through TACAX or Radius back through a separate database on that Radius or TACAX server, or even further to an LDAP directory database, such as Active Directory or an LDAP database, user database that may be resting on a Linux server. Okay? You create your transform set. What your transform set is going to do is it's going to define your layer 2, layer 3 crypto. So am I using MD5? Am I using AES? Am I going to use ESP or AH? Okay. How am I going to encrypt my pre-shared key? Am I going to use an HMAC or am I going to use something else? You define your tunnel group. You basically create a crypto map, and you put that tunnel group in the crypto map, and you tie that crypto map to the interface. Okay? So, for those of you who barely scraped by in Java programming, or for those of you who came from the CIS program because you couldn't do object-oriented programming, this might be a little bit of a challenge for you. Alright, for those of you who like programming, alright, this will be fun. This will be fun because you're going to be creating objects, you're going to be tying objects to one another to reference crypto, and then you're going to be taking those objects and tying them to an interface where it's all going to reference one another. Okay? So this is object-oriented programming 101, guys. That's the cornerstone to VPNs. Okay? And if you're good at this, you'd also be good at policy maps and group maps in QoS for voice over IP. You need to be really good at route maps and prefix lists for BGP and advanced routing. Okay. So, please leverage this guide for your remote access VPN for Lab 3.